There we go. We're recording. Hey.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, everyone. Welcome. Episode 103 of the Heist podcast featuring mic arms. So if you're listening to audio version only, then you won't notice. We're slowly getting fancy.
Oh, yeah.
Getting too fancy for our own good.
Got mood lighting. We've got portraits, canvases.
Yes. I'll show you a little something soon as well, a little other thing that I don't have right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know what? I was talking to someone about this, and it's like after 100 episodes, I got one of these mic arms, and it's like, that feels about right, rather than it's like, they told me, they said, I was talking to people who they're like podcasters, but they didn't really start yet. And they've literally got hundreds of pounds worth of kit. And it's like, that's not the priority, when you're just starting. So I think we did it perfectly right. Like when we started, we did have mics, I think, right?
Yeah.
So we just had mics. That's all we had.
Yeah.
And then the next stage after that was maybe a little tiny bit of, I wouldn't call it editing, but used to play with the compressor and this and that to try and make the sound better. But I don't think I got very far with that.
Same.
Then we started with the camera, so we started making video versions, and I got this camera that I'm using now. That was quite a big investment, but because I was using it for other things, not just the podcast, it was like made sense and stuff. Then eventually you got camera, and now we got mic arms and stuff. So I got lighting as well. When I got the camera, I got lighting. So the lighting makes a difference for the video. But it's like very slowly over like 2-3 years that we bought this stuff. So that seems about right.
Yeah.
And look, I'll show you this now as well. I got.
Allahi barik. You know what?
Yeah.
I had 2 of those, and they both broke.
Thank you, Suleiman.
I know. No, I don't know who broke mine, actually. Someone broke mine. But yeah. How are you, bro?
Alhamdulillah, just got this long hair, which is interesting development. Akhi, wallah, the weather out here, it was snowing, 2 weeks ago. Then today was 20 degrees, very nice.
Oh, wow.
And apparently it's going to be snowing at the end of this week. So it's up and down, but that's
from 20 degrees to snow.
Yeah, in like a week, apparently.
That's crazy.
But I guess that's the signs that spring is coming, inshallah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to live somewhere where there is spring, because in UAE there's no spring. There's summer and there's winter.
Yeah, I guess so.
So that's interesting. And yeah, just trying to work, man, and get stuff done. Feel like obviously I'm in different country for the past few months, and it's taken a toll on my productivity and focus and stuff like that. So it's kind of annoying, really, but you can't have it all at the same time. So alhamdulillah, my maybe, I don't know, I always want to share less information than more, but someone in you could say family got the vaccine, followed your example the other day. And yeah, man, nothing else new that I can think of. Oh yeah, there is something new. But what about you first before I get into that?
Absolutely nothing from me, I'm afraid. Nothing at all. Nothing whatsoever. Trying to think, can't think of anything. It's snowing here. That's about it. Doesn't usually snow down at the coast, but here we are.
Alhamdulillah. And okay, well, in that case, the other thing, because it was a couple episodes ago, we were talking about stocks and finances and all that. So, Akhi, I showed you a bit of a screenshot the other day, right? But this is nuts. Like, I invested in Shopify, and now I'm like 20%. Yeah.
Yep, we lost you there.
Where did I
We
drop
lost
off?
you. We lost you for a bit. I think you said you invested in something.
Yeah, bro. So I bought Shopify, bought some Stonkify, yeah, and yeah, and it's up 20% in 10 days.
There you
So
go.
that's like ridiculous, right? In terms of what's normal.
Yeah, easy, isn't it? So easy. Wow, we are
Yeah,
experts.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know.
But I guess it can just as easily go down 20% as well, isn't it?
Yeah, true, true. I mean, I think that's where you get the false notion of success and expertise that a lot of newbies like ourselves will get sort of caught up with.
Yeah.
It's because that kind of sets the precedent and your expectations for the rest of your sort of what I mean. But you could
Yeah,
probably have
yeah, yeah.
years. This is a positive market. You could probably have years in a negative market and just be like, oh, this is a waste of time, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But do you know the term dollar cost averaging?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So can you explain to me, because I think I know what it is, but I'm not sure.
My understanding is that you are essentially you just average down basically, or average up depending on. So you're not talking about day trading or short-term trading. You're talking about long-term stuff. Like, yeah, if you're down on your investment, but you believe in the company, you believe in its sort of future, and you believe in that the stock price will rise in the future. For example, like I'm down on something at the moment, although it doesn't bother me. If my average is, let's say my average is £1, and it's actually down 50%, so it's actually at, I don't know, 50p now a share, for example, then me putting in a certain amount will lower my average because I've come in again at a lower price. So it
Your
will drag
average what?
my average. So the average cost of my investment, for example,
Oh, okay. The average that you put in, or the average cost of the share?
the average cost that I've put in. So the average cost that
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
paid
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're constantly buying whenever you've got money,
Yeah.
you're never going to be, let's say today I bought it for £1, tomorrow it might be worth more. If I pay more, then actually my average goes up, because the
Yes.
average between the £1 I paid for and the £1.50 that it is today, for example, that
Mm-hmm.
means my average is somewhere in between. However, if the opposite happens, so one day I pay £1, but then the price goes to 50p, and then I buy more, that means my
Yes.
average is actually somewhere between that pound and 50p. So I've lowered
Yeah.
my
Yeah. Yeah.
average, which means that the potential for it to go higher, it's almost like you've dragged down what you've paid overall, as opposed to.
Yeah. So basically, like, let's say you want to put £100 in every month, right? And let's say you're just focusing on like one specific company. If you like, £100 might get you one share this month, and next month it will get you two shares because it halves in value. And
Yeah.
you're in terms of dollar cost averaging, it's like you're putting in the same amount of money each month, but what that gets you will fluctuate, right?
Yeah. And there's
Basically, yeah.
different sort of methods and techniques that people can adopt. Some people may not be concerned about price dips and anything like that. They're just in it for the long term, and they don't really care. They're not
Yeah.
going to be following, not going to be observant. It's easy for them to just put the money in whenever. Some people
Yeah.
hold on to cash until there's a good opportunity. So like, for example, you might already be invested in a particular company, and because you want to bypass some of the quote unquote time in the market, so you don't want to just buy and wait, you want to actually maximize by waiting for the best time to buy, which is when it dips, and then you can buy into it, so you're getting a good deal for your money. But some people do a bit of both,
Yeah. What I've noticed since starting is that the long-term mindset is so helpful, and not trying to time the market, as they say, like, so not looking for the dip, not waiting for the dip, because ultimately it's very hard to know when the dip is, because you might say, oh, it's gone down 20%, let me buy now. But then a week later it'll go down another 20%, and then you'll be like, oh, I should have bought then.
Yeah.
So rather than worrying about all that, I'm just like doing it like around the same amount and same time every month. I'll just buy whatever I think is going to do well in the next like 3 years or whatever. And yeah,
I think
then when I'm down, like, because I was down, I bought like 5 different companies, and I was down on 4 of them. But it didn't bother me at all because I'm like, 1 week does not make any
Make a
difference whatsoever.
Yeah. It's not about the week, is it? But for people that have like large sums of money, like if you've got £10,000 sitting there, you can make daily income just from the small fluctuations if you're day trading or short-term trading, buying and selling in that short term, because it's only then that those returns are going to be quite substantial, that it's going to make a difference.
Sure.
But if you're day trading with 10 quid, 20 quid, the most you're going to make is like pennies. And do you know what I mean? Then it's not worth it. But a lot of platforms, like we said, had like practice stuff, practice accounts. My practice account started with 50 grand and it's sitting now at about 400,000, just because I can take those ridiculous risks and not care because it's fake money. But it just lets you learn and allows you to learn what that means and what the potential is.
In terms of like expectations, like, okay, so that one stock is up 20%, but overall I'm up like 8%. Okay, so but I like you're saying, like, I'm not expecting that kind of return over a year or more than a year. Like, I know the average is about let's say 10 to 14% a year is the average, I think, if you have like an index fund. So if I'm making that, then I'm kind of, that's what I expect basically. But obviously over a longer period of time, because if you just look over 3 months, then you might be up 50% or whatever, but you've got to look over a longer period of time, because what's likely to happen is over a 5-year window there will be some big dips as well. So as long as you average out to 10, maybe 20% a year, then you should consider yourself in a good position, I think.
And at the end of the day, it's just about diversifying all your options, isn't it? It's not just in the stock market, but in everything. Sitting on cash and saving cash is just not, I've come to the realization, like many have, that it's just not the smartest thing to do. Some of it in this, some of it in that, some of it in actual buying things, physical things, like even things like gold, actually, like not like silver, gold in terms of like, buying gold online and it's just somewhere. I'm talking about like actual jewelry or actual physical things that,
I mean, that's something that I learned. It's not, I guess it is the hard way. Like buying gold online is haram, buying silver online is haram. I didn't know that. I bought silver online and it wasn't one of them ones where it's stored somewhere else or whatever. They sent it to me, but yeah, that's haram, man. So I made a mistake with that. I didn't know what I was doing. But I guess it's worth more now than I bought it, but that wasn't the purpose. It's just like you're saying, diversifying. So you like even on these like apps, you can buy gold, silver, in that kind of fake way.
I mean, I know, it's very, it's a historic cultural tradition for many cultures to just buy gold anyway and store it. I mean, I know there used to be a spate of crimes called like theft of Asian gold, where a lot of Asian families would just have loads of gold in their house because that was traditionally what they would do. And I know, like, I know even my grandmother like has like loads of gold jewelry, gold bangles and stuff that she's had for years and years and maybe bought for years and years, and it holds value or even increases in value. So it's just about trying to secure yourself a bit, especially, I mean, look what's happened these past couple of years now and the uncertainty of it all. And obviously everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you still have to tie your camel in a way and try and be a bit responsible, I guess.
Gold and silver, it's like a storage of wealth, so you might not make profits out of it, but at least it's like, when the market is or the economy is like volatile and there's uncertainty, people tend to buy those because it's like that will hold its value. You might not make a profit out of it, but it will hold its value. Whereas if you own like, shares or whatever, those are likely to drop in a recession. Whereas gold is like tends to stay stable. So it's like a place to store wealth. And I think also it's a place that people go to put their money in when they're in an economy where there's a lot of inflation. And sometimes like less developed countries, you could say, a lot of the time the currency is very volatile. So it's like a way to store as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I know someone who had gold in their house like that. It got robbed, all gone. And gold is something crazy, bro, because it's like a little bit of it is worth a lot, man.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I don't think I've got any myself, bro. Maybe my wife has, but not me.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, silver is better because it looks more. It looks like more, even though it's less money.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but you know, I heard something in the last week, and honestly, it made me think. Yeah, this guy, basically, he was asking advice from this someone I look up to in business. Basically, someone asked him, I'm starting to make quite a lot of money now. And a lot of people are telling me like, oh, you know, you need to buy a house, you know, you need to buy real estate, you know, now that you're stacking up the money. Yeah. So what do you think, you know, should I start buying a house or two and like start, you know, investing that way? And he said, no, he said, he's like, why would you, why would you want assets when you could have money? Like he's like, money is the ultimate asset. Everyone always wants money, but not everyone always wants like houses. So like if the economy is uncertain, you won't definitely find a buyer for your house,
Right.
but people always will take money in exchange for stuff.
Mm.
So he's like, you know, he's like, don't follow those random people's advice because most people are stupid. And he was going down this whole thing.
Oh, God, okay.
And he's saying, he's like, for me, he's like, I keep everything in cash. He's like, if I have less than like a few $1 million in cash, then I start getting nervous, you know. And he's really taking it a bit to the extreme.
Mm.
But one thing that was interesting, he said, people tell you to diversify, but he said diversification, if you think about it, is for people who don't know what they're doing, because you're putting money all in different places because you're admitting, I don't know where is safe and where is going to go up and where is going to go down. So you're spreading it, right? He's like, if you knew what was going to give you a good return, you'd put all your money there. You wouldn't diversify.
Mm.
And he said, you know, this is what the like people who run hedge funds do. He's like, they might have $10 million to manage. He's like, they'll put 10 million into only 3 companies because they're not they're not dumb. Like they're not guessing. They're actually like certain of what's going to go up. They've done their homework and they're like, yeah, this is going to go. So he's like, I'm against diversification. So I thought that was just really interesting perspective, even though I wouldn't necessarily follow it to the T, but in terms of like, I think there's something powerful about having a lot of cash, and it gives you that sense of stability, which allows you to take risks in life. You know, so it's not the financial benefit of it, but it's like the psychological benefit of knowing that you've got that cushion. You know.
Mm. Well, I don't like to. There's something about what your goal is. If your goal is, yes, trying to make more money off of just the, you know, the rise in asset value, then fair enough. But that seems like it's not very hard work. It's more the fact that you are earning money and you're preserving it and maybe getting a bit of a bonus on top of it, as opposed to earning money, saving it, and then the inflation just sort of destroying it. Because we're already getting taxed so much anyway. So a lot of the money that you work hard for gets taken away. Plus, on top of that, you know, you've got expenses, you've got whatever, but that's fine because that's part of your necessity of living. That's what you kind of work for. But the worst of it, yeah, is like the tax and then the inflation on top of that, that you can work so much that such a huge chunk of your blood, sweat, and tears is taken away from you. So yeah, so trying to win some of that back in a sense, or trying to earn some of that back. But I don't want to get complacent thinking that sitting here, you know, with an app on my phone or whatever it is, on some sort of thing on my computer is hard work, you know, is the blood, sweat, and tears. No, the real work happens out there. The real work happens because even, I think a lot of it, even, you know, despite, if you put the halal and haram to the side, there's a big push for ethical sort of, what they call it, ethical sort of mindset when it comes to stuff like this, and you don't want to just lose yourself. For example, like there was a big discussion recently among some of the people of knowledge, and you know, especially in Islamic finance, regarding the efficacy of these sort of swing trade, short term sort of YOLO kind of,
Mhm.
you know, just
Day trading,
high, yeah,
basically.
day trading, all that sort of stuff. Like,
Mm.
is it appropriate, even if it's even if like the company you're dealing with is permissible and the asset is permissible, is it
Mm.
appropriate for a Muslim to basically just risk everything all in one go on something that is, or do you know what I mean? Or not, it doesn't even have to
Mm.
be everything, but it's such a large sum of money and it's so uncertain and there's no real, you haven't really got a set clear vision of why this is, there's no fundamental behind this. There's no sort of, it's all purely hype. And is that becoming of a Muslim to sort of engage themselves in that kind of activity?
Mm.
And then what is the long-term effect that has on someone's soul and someone's mind and heart? Because even when I was involved in that kind of sort of short-term, sort of very high risk, very sort of like volatile, it takes over your mind. Akhi. That's all you can think about. You could be
Yeah.
honestly, I find myself even sometimes, like you could be sitting there praying salah, bro, and those thoughts start coming to your head. Shaitan just starts influencing you in your mind about that kind of stuff because it's almost it's although it may not be gambling, it's almost akin to that kind of it's firing off those sort of cylinders that you would probably find in gambling. But what we were saying
Mhm.
earlier about the long term element is that you put that to the side and you can effectively forget about it. I mean, you find yourself probably starting to follow a lot of social media accounts or news sites or email, newsletters and all sorts of stuff regarding the companies that you've invested in. And suddenly you realize, oh God, this is a whole new world that's taken over my life
Mm.
now. And I'm just sort of, every time there's a news story, I'm glued to it. I have to read it. But this is it. I don't want it to take over my life. I don't want it to get in the way of,
Mm.
of certain things because at the end of the day, actually think about it, you're already working anyway. That's taking up
Yeah,
a
man.
whole side of your life. And then when you're not at
That
work
you're
and
adding. Yeah.
you're adding on to that because
Yeah.
I find myself, I'll be sitting with my family or my kids and I'm like checking the stock market and checking news and stuff like that. And I'm like, why am I doing this? It doesn't make a difference. It's not like I've got a lump of cash right now and I'm thinking, oh, what is the next best investment I should make? If I did, then fair enough. I can be excused because I'm about to make an investment. But when I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm just sitting there, just wondering what's going up and what's going down and how my portfolio is going to look today. Then I realized, well,
Mhm.
actually, that's not what this was about. This was about, I got into this for long term, sort of
Mm.
forget about it
To
kind
be
of
like
nature.
responsible with your money and stuff.
Exactly. So yeah, but I think it's the
Yeah.
same with anything. There's going to be anything you start, you're going to have this sort of burning enthusiasm that will unfortunately detract from other things that are important to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, just have to be aware of it, I guess.
I find it kind of fascinating, this idea you hear about where people used to, or they still do, they go to the market, they sell, and when they've sold a certain amount, they'll just pack up and leave, right?
Mm.
And it's like they've made their money for I don't know how long, like for for tomorrow's food or for next week's food, and that's kind of where they'll stop.
You talk about like in a
Um,
physical sort of like a
yes, yes,
luxury
yeah,
sort. Yeah.
yeah. So that is completely the opposite to this, where it's like you're working 8 hours a day to make money, then you're spending another hour a day looking at the news and this and that, following the trades and stuff, and then you're spending, how much of your life are you spending trying to accumulate money?
Mm, mm.
It's probably not what a Muslim should be doing, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
It's like it's you gotta live by the whole thing. Like, our purpose is to worship Allah,
Yeah.
and part of our living in the dunya is that we got to be responsible in terms of um whatever it could be. Family, that's maybe what most people like kind of think of, like we make money for family, but it also could be I want to make money to benefit the ummah or myself as well.
Yeah.
But you can't give that absolute precedence. You
Mm.
can't give it absolute precedence. You've got to have balance. And like there was that story of man, I'm gonna get it mixed up, but basically the Prophet ﷺ, he said that your it's like your Lord. I'm gonna get it mixed up, but help me out. Your Lord has a right over you.
Mm-hmm.
Your family has a right over you, and your like self has a right over you,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, or your body or something. So it's like these three elements. Now, I think some scholars, they said about this hadith that it should be split between three. So if it's split between three, let's say you're sleeping for 8 hours, you've got 16 hours left. 16 divided by 3 is like 5.3. So are you spending 5.3 hours worshiping Allah? Even in the indirect ways, like, not really. But even that might be something to aspire to, even, like you could easily spend 1 hour reading Quran. You're praying probably for about 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
And, so if we're spending 9-10 hours making money, then automatically we know there's an imbalance.
Yeah. I think it also, one thing that is really important is that you have to be aware of how it changes your perspective when it comes to money. You start, there's always this battle between your nefs when it's accumulating wealth, so earning money, but also spending on charity. And there's always this battle where people, and everybody's guilty of it, myself included, where it's like, when I reach a certain milestone, that is when I'm going to start giving loads of charity in this particular sector or in this particular, right? But it shouldn't be a milestone. It should always be something that exists, and it should always be, like we spoke about last time, either percentage based or just, generally. You don't have to write down the number, the percentage, but according to how you feel and what you feel is suitable for that particular day or that particular week or whatever you do. But what happens is, like, because you've got this investment mindset, like every penny can become a pound at some point, you are thinking, yes, but if I give this pound now in charity, then my potential for investment is gone. Why don't I just invest this pound now? And then when it becomes
more later,
I can give more later. Do you understand? I could earn more later and also give more later.
And
this is it. This is the danger, I believe, that we could all fall into. So what I keep trying to remind myself is like, no, forget about the future. Forget, when it comes to charity, forget about the future. Do it right now. Do it now, and then when the future comes, if it comes, if you achieve those goals in the future, then it achieves those goals. But you can't have this mindset that giving charity now will detract from the possibility of earning more in the future. And I think the reason why it's such a it makes things a bit more sort of real is the fact that without the investment side of it, there was always this fear that Shaitan would put into us when it came to giving charity, was that, okay, if I give a pound now, I've lost a pound now. And that was the fear. However, now with the old investment concept in your mind, you're like, oh, if I give a pound now, I've lost a tenner in the future, or I've lost £100 in the future, based on what that pound could eventually mean to you, So yeah, Shaitan is definitely going to be at play when it comes to this kind of arena and your sort of involvement in this arena.
Yeah, I mean, even giving charity is an investment. It's just not an investment in your financial future, but still an investment fully,
Well, I believe it's both, Akhi. I believe it's giving. You have to remind yourself that giving charity is an investment, not only in your akhirah, but also in your dunya. You have to have a strong and firm belief that what you give for the sake of Allah will be returned to you, because you don't lose, it doesn't, depreciate wealth giving charity. But it's not, Allahu A'lam what the word is used, but it may be that it's not just riches, it's wealth meaning the long-term aspect of wealth, not just the here and now, because there's obviously the difference between being rich and being wealthy. There's a difference between, income and wealth can expand. Wealth is something long-term. Wealth is an accumulative sort of noun for a lot of things, not just the here and now or your income or your paycheck. Wealth includes everything.
Yeah, I guess it's like barakah, right? So if you, maybe I just thought of like a way to think about it. If you have £1,000 in London versus £1,000 in Rwanda, it's very different, even though it's still £1,000. So the same maybe we could apply to £1,000 with barakah is very different to £1,000 without barakah. You reminded me actually about this whole thing of giving charity now, not giving, because everyone knows the ayah in Surah Al-Munafiqun, where Allah says, وَأَنفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُم مِّن قَبْلِ أَن يَأْتِيَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ فَيَقُولَ رَبِّي لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَى أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ فَأَصَّدَّقَ وَأَكُن مِّنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. So Allah saying, وَأَنفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُم, spend from what I've given you before death comes to you. And then فَيَقُول, then you'll say, my Lord, couldn't you delay my death so I can go and give charity? So it's like the thing that people would want to do to when they come back is give. So basically, it's like this is like very, very direct ayah about not delaying giving, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So definitely, man, we should give, and it's way more than just the ajr, I feel. It's actually aqeedah. It's actually practical aqeedah of how do you conceptualize wealth, where wealth comes from, what the purpose of wealth is. And the way you show that you have the correct beliefs around it is how you act with it, isn't it? So if you give freely, like the is it the 7 under the shade of Allah, you know, his left hand doesn't know what his right hand gave, you know, if you're just like so free with it, that says something about your aqeedah and how strong your belief and your iman is. If you give like an uncomfortable amount, again, eventually you get comfortable with it, because I guess your trust kind of increases and everything. So I always remember, bro, Sheikh Tawfiq Chowdhury, I can't remember, it was like on an interview or something. He was saying, you know, I was telling my son about money, trying to teach about money and like encouraging him to do business, make money. So he went out and he made money. And then I said, give. I said, give 20% away, give 30%. How much can you give away? And just get used to giving. Like, why, you know, oh, you give your zakat 2.5%, then you give, you know, maybe another 2.5% throughout the year. Like, why limit it? You know, just give 20%. Like, can you handle that? Can you do it? You know?
And think, you know, subhanAllah, how merciful Allah is that it's 2.5%. I mean, 2.5% is nothing. You know, it really is nothing. And, you know, you're thinking of how, you know, you read the Quran, subhanAllah, and you think how good deeds are emphasized, and how, you know, the promise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has of Jannah for, you know, his believing slaves, and how all of these aspects of the deen are emphasized. And then on top of that, it's 2.5%. You know, you would think that it'd be like 20, 30, 40% would be based on how, you know, Jannah's described, and how all these aspects of the deen are described. You would expect that Allah would put you know, a 40%
hefty
thing, or
price
40,
tag.
yeah, hefty price tag, exactly. But no, 2.5%, and that's, you know, and if you do that, that's fine. But subhanAllah, this is it. We should be aiming high, and this is one of the things that I'd argue is, once you've into it, then it's the easiest thing to do. You know, it's especially in this day and age. Like, how easy is it now to just Google a charity, or, you know, put your card details in, or even some apps like we spoke about before, just one tap, boom, there you go, the money's gone, you know, and that's it. I mean, Allah knows best how different organizations conduct that, how different, but it's an aman at the end of the day, between,
It's not
you know,
really
them.
your problem, 100%.
Yeah, as long as you're, you know, you've done what's you're capable of. But think about it, just not money in your pocket. Think about it as the work that went in to get that paycheck, you know, because it's easy to look at your bank account and just see pennies and forget the work that it took to get that in there. It's actually, think about all those nights that you were working, all those days you were working, or the, you know, the stress that came with it, the physical, whatever your job is. It depends obviously what your job is, but, you know, maybe the physical sort of strains, or the stresses that came with that. That is what you're actually putting forward as well. The work, the physical labor that it took to get to that pound or whatever.
Yeah. Someone in this book I heard about, they say like to think about purchases based on the whatever man hours or whatever. So if it's £100 and you get paid £50 an hour, then that's 2 man hours. And then you think like, am I happy for 2 of my man hours to result in me acquiring this material item? And then it puts it into perspective, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's it's all perspective, isn't it? All of this is perspective. And once again, the biggest lesson I'm trying to put forward is just to not get lost in it. Don't get lost in the source of it all. You know, at the end of the day, this is a dunya, and this is what it's about. And it's easy. It's very easy to just get lost and forget about death, forget about where we're ending up, and just got to keep reminding yourself that nothing, absolutely nothing, is guaranteed apart from death. You know, I'm not you know, we're not guaranteed to even finish this podcast. This podcast that we're recording is not even guaranteed to make it to the internet. You know, but we're talking like it is. You know, we speak to the listeners like they're hearing it, but we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. But it is what it is.
Damn.
Just to sidetrack from this point, you ordered that mic stand, right, out in Turkey, right? Now, I was just fascinated by that because the thought of ordering something in like Tunisia, for example, just doesn't make sense to me. Like we don't have where I live, at least, we don't have like postal addresses. We don't like, if I was to order something online, I don't think it would ever reach me. I don't even think I wouldn't know what to put into the form. Do you know what I mean? Like where it says, oh, so how is that the system obviously is quite sorted out there, isn't it?
Bro, it's
Just normal.
very good.
Yeah.
Very good. For example, like I guess the perception is like UAE is more advanced than Turkey,
Okay.
but that's not true in many ways.
Okay.
And this is one of the ways, like in terms of delivery infrastructure, addresses, all of that. Even like the products that you can buy, right? That you can find. Turkey's better. Turkey beats UAE in that.
Oh wow.
They got, for example, as well, they got their own like what do you use mostly, like you personally, to order food, delivery?
Right. Yeah, those apps and stuff like Just Eat and
But what do you use, like specific
I
one?
use Just Eat.
Just Eat, okay. So I didn't know Just Eat do that, by the way. But actually, yeah, that is their whole business.
Only because Deliveroo and Uber Eats don't deliver to me because I'm on the outskirts of the city.
Okay, yeah. So they've got their like 2-3 of those kind of things, and one of them actually just launched in the UK. So
right, cool.
they I guess they're doing well out over here.
You know what?
Then they spread to the UK.
Now that you say that, when I was in Morocco, there was a service like that really fascinated me. So it was kind of like Deliveroo or whatever. I forgot what it was called, but my gran was using it and my cousins were using it, and I was like, what? So essentially, they're obviously delivery people on scooters or whatever, and predominantly they're ordering food. They're going to get food for you, although it's generally like restaurants and stuff. They'll go to it, they'll order it for you, and then bring it back. But also, it's anything else that you need as well. So like, oh, I've run out of washing up liquid. Can you get some washing up liquid as well? And obviously they'll pay for it, but then you'd have to pay them when they get there, sort of thing, when they get to you. But that kind of stuff, like, oh, I've run out of salt. Can you get some salt? Like anything, literally anything. So for groceries, they'll just do it for you and then bring it.
Does that not exist in the UK?
So not like that, in the sense that I can imagine it does exist, but it's like loads of middlemen, right? In the sense that you're going to have to order, okay, let's say I order something from such and such restaurant, KFC, hypothetically, right? But then I have to make a separate order to, what am I, like Asda or something? And when is that going to get delivered? Like I'm talking about like a supermarket.
Okay, yeah. Like supermarkets in the UK, they deliver, but it's like more for big shops, big orders, and they'll come in like
there
a
are
day or
some,
2
like
days.
some of these, I'm sure, like Deliveroo and stuff. Some of them do go to like M&S or like like petrol station garages and stuff like that. And they'll get some stuff there. But because I haven't done it, I don't know what's available to choose from. So it probably isn't everything. But like, forget all of those. You can see a problem here. Really, is that there's an infrastructure problem within these apps. That there's loads of barriers that don't need to exist. If you could literally wipe out all the barriers, and then literally the app is basically a communication between you and a driver, right? That's what it should be. Forget all these other things. It should be between you and a driver. And then, yes, you can have the app, like the menus for this place or that place or whatever, but you should be able to just throw everything that you need on there. And then this driver can literally just go bang, 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 and then get you the stuff. Do you understand? So it could literally be like a transfer. You transfer the funds to them. They keep a certain portion, but then they spend on they keep a certain portion for their own profit, the fees or whatever, but then they spend the rest on.
But isn't that what it is already?
No, it's not, because it actually has to go through a middleman. It has to go through all these middlemen. For example, it has to go to Just Eat. You order from the restaurant, for example, but then the grocery aspect has to be from a different person. It can't be the same driver that brings it to you. It can't be the same order. You can only order.
Why do you want it to be from the same?
Because that means, for example, that means you could just get all the stuff you needed there and then. Do you understand what I mean? If you didn't want to leave the house at all.
But
so this is what I'm saying. I'm saying the concept in Morocco was that it was just very, very practical. For example, on his way back from bringing this shawarma or whatever, I actually could do with some milk and some this and some that from the grocery store. So he could pop in to there. But that's not going to happen in the UK. That wouldn't happen in the UK.
Yeah. But we've got that here, by the way, the thing you said about Morocco.
Yeah.
So like there's one app which it will deliver restaurant food, but then it will also deliver groceries. But the way
Yeah.
they do the groceries is they have their own warehouse with groceries
Right.
in it.
Okay.
So they sell the groceries to you directly. They don't go to the
Well,
supermarket to get the
that's even
groceries.
better, really, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
like the
they get
Amazon method.
nice margin on that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, too expensive. But it's like designed for those like 5 items, 3 items, and I need them within 10 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what that's for. It's not for a big shop unless you're
No,
like
true.
unless you're a baller, man.
Yeah, true.
So
Yeah.
but I think the reason they would, if you order from a restaurant and then actually, you know, I'm thinking, bro, like when I order from restaurants, it's usually the restaurant's own drivers who come. And
Yeah.
the app is just the platform for me to send my order through. That's actually how the main app that is used to order
Well,
food works like that usually.
I believe that's the difference between, like, I think Just Eat is directly to the restaurant and then they have their own drivers. However, Deliveroo and Uber Eats you
Yes.
work for those companies and then
Yeah.
you're the middleman. So
They want to take over that portion of it. Yeah. There is another app that does that where they will come with their own drivers, not the restaurant's drivers. Yeah. Yeah, but bro, infrastructure here is very good. Even the banking. So so for example, paying by card it's not as ubiquitous as in the UK, but it's very much there, like nearly there. And it's maybe more than UAE again. It might be more used than UAE. And at least here, everyone's aware of like contactless. You know, in UAE, still, you know that the card reader has contactless thing, and they don't really know about it. So you have to put your PIN code and all that
right.
still. But that, I guess that, you know, with time that will come. But here, what I heard is, you know, if I buy something in the UK with my card, the let's say it was £10, they will lose 3% of that. You know,
Right.
like Visa will take like 1%, and then the bank will take 2% or something like that. So it's like a big problem. That's why you know, sometimes they don't want you to use card if possible.
Yeah.
But over here, apparently it's less than 1% that's taken rather than 3%.
Oh, I
So
see.
like they're very much like okay with you using card, and it's more smooth and stuff. They say like the system here is like kind of like China in terms of, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain how it's like China, but in terms of like trying to be very forward thinking, obviously forward thinking using technology for a lot of stuff, but also it's more top down than the UK. And also it's like very nationalistic and protectionist. So
Right.
it's like everything here has to be Turkish if possible. They don't want foreign companies coming. They don't, you know, foreign people even. It's not that easy for everything. So it's very much like that, you know. So for example, Uber came, they kind of got kicked out, and there's a Uber, you know, alternative, which is a Turkish one, you know.
Yeah.
And these like delivery apps and all that, it's all Turkish ones. So that's how they kind of want to operate, and you know, it makes sense, to be honest. Like, good for them.
Yeah, definitely.
An interesting model as well here. This is yani my lesser, not so educated on the matter kind of opinion, but what it seems to be that they have here is everyone, as much as possible, gets a job, even if it's low paid job. So the salaries here are quite low, but I'm sure by doing that, a lot of people have jobs, right? Even if the salary is low. So it's almost like the goal is for everyone to have, you know, basic shelter and food, but less people going to get like rich. Whereas elsewhere, I feel like it's more like, okay, more people are going to be unemployed, but those who are employed are going to be more, you know, better off. And I think, I don't know, but I feel like that's more of an Islamic model. It's like we cover everyone's basic thing. Like, you're right, in a way, your right is to eat and have shelter and this and that. It's not your right to like have luxury, you know, like the priority is to provide everyone with the basics, not necessarily to provide all this opportunity to get rich. Like, that's secondary to the basics.
Do you think that what would you prefer then? What is it about the UAE then in that sort of aspect that you think is better, if there is better at all? Like in
In
terms of like
what?
the infrastructure and that sort of stuff.
Oh, how is UAE better than Turkey? You're saying?
Yeah, if it is.
I mean, we're talking about a very wide topic. Like you're talking about
In terms of the aspects that
economy, or
in this sort of like the everyday kind of stuff that you've sort of mentioned. So whether it's like
yeah,
the delivery stuff or whether it's like making just simple transactions
yeah.
and purchases, um, that kind of element of it, the day to day, you know,
Hmm.
or maybe you haven't even thought about it yet.
Honestly, I'm struggling to find some in this area.
Mm.
I'm not struggling to find a way that UAE is better. Um, but I think UAE is operating based on what it has.
Mm.
So UAE doesn't have a population of 85 million. A lot of those people are educated and they have skills and a big, huge, country and yeah, I think this happened before, bro. My phone goes on airplane mode at 10:30 p.m.
Oh,
So that
right.
happened.
Okay. Okay. So we lost you. But yeah, you were saying
I
UAE
was
is
saying that the UAE is doing what's best, like what works for its situation.
Mm.
So UAE doesn't have 85 million people population. It doesn't have like very educated population in terms of like universities that are old, and the culture is a bit more like of being educated and stuff.
Right.
And it has a much smaller country and much less resources and all of that. So because of that, they're like, yes, foreign companies come in, foreign workers come in, foreign educated people come in, foreign professors come in. Like, we need you. But Turkey's like, okay, we've got a big population. We've got universities that a lot of them have gone through. So they're now educated and able to do jobs. We've got, like, because we got so many people, we've got like people, like enough rich people to fund different things. We've got a lot of stuff. We don't need foreigners to come and help us out
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much. So that allows them to be protectionist.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're relying on the outside world, you have to be more open and allow more to come in. But I think, the UAE could have done way better in terms of becoming more self-reliant, and they just don't seem to have done that too much. And what I mean specifically is the human resources of the UAE is weak, it's weak. So they can't have like top universities without foreign professors. They can't have, like, for example, a few, 5-10 years ago, they started building their own rail system. And it's like, they have to bring foreigners to set that up because they don't have expertise in rail.
Right.
Whereas, like countries like Singapore, Malaysia, they had these big projects where they would send their people abroad to learn that stuff and then come back and teach it, and they become self-sufficient from then. Whereas UAE is very much like, instead of sending people out to get educated and come back, it's like, let's just bring the finished product over here.
Right. It's kind
So
of
it's
like
not good long
that
term.
what was it? They had a rocket mission or whatever. They sent
Yes, Mars thing. Yeah.
yeah, and it was just like, oh, we we paid some other company to do it for
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's how they tend to try and do a lot of things, is just basically it's outsourcing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like we'll put the money up, but we won't do anything other than that, really. But I've got to, Yanni, I think you've got to give some level of credit somewhere where bit by bit they are getting, at least on the surface of it, like they were saying, this Mars probe that they sent, they're saying like Emirati engineers worked on it. So there's some level of that, but it's probably much less than what it
Yeah.
seems on the surface.
I mean, I think I'm sure their political trajectory is going to push for that anyway, especially considering that the resources that has allowed them to have so much money is going to slowly dwindle in the future.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's always, I mean, one thing that everything's moving towards is obviously, electric based vehicles, for example, solar power, all that sort of stuff. And they've got the temperature, they've got the climate, they've got all of that for that kind of energy production. And, that was something that North Africa started doing. I think it was like Morocco. I'm not sure if other countries did it, but like, solar panels in the desert and then just sort of selling that energy. And there you go, boom, you're now a leader in that sort of production. That's something that you can't be really found anywhere else.
There's a big solar project in Morocco.
Hmm.
That project was supposed to be in Algeria. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
I think it was no, but
No, I'm
it's
joking.
completely Algeria's flop. So I think it was a German company who wanted to do it, and they
Yeah.
were looking for like a country to do. So they went to Algeria first. Algeria basically scared them away with corruption and bribery, and they like, we'll just go Morocco.
Oh. But the thing is,
So
inshallah, that an opportunity comes for all those sort of countries to, whether it's not even another a country coming in, but them setting it up themselves, at least for their own people, and then inshallah
yeah,
expanding so they're able to sell it.
yeah,
Because especially a lot of the Muslim world is in that prime position where they've got that kind of climate, and they've got that kind of advantage and the space really, to sort of capitalize on that.
yeah,
Imagine,
yeah,
subhanallah, imagine a day in the future when Mecca and Medina is powered purely solar, like just because of the desert and because there's that infrastructure out there.
yeah, yeah,
That'd be amazing. That'd be absolutely
yeah.
incredible.
You know, the difficulty they have is the solar panels get dust on them. And that makes them very, lose a lot of efficiency.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they've been. I know there was like certain research being done. Like I think maybe some people have heard of Mastar Institute in Abu Dhabi, which is like a sustainable development, whatever research thing. And that was one thing I remember they were working on, is trying to make solar panels out of a material where the dust falls off it instead of sticking on it.
Right, I understand.
So that's that kind of thing. Also, it was like a year ago now, or 6 months ago, the UAE opened their nuclear reactor, the first one.
Okay.
So they'd been working on that for like 10 years. So they turned that on. So that's like generating some power for them. And Turkey's also working on nuclear power as well. So that's interesting. But it's very interesting time, Akhi, to be honest. Like I read the other day, the previous German chancellor or whatever, Schroeder, he's like big time. I think he did a lot of terms and stuff. He's like very respected in Germany. He wrote his like autobiography or something like that. Like it came out recently. And he was saying, no one should basically make enemies with Turkey because they're going to be so big in the future. So, just be careful about that. Don't be like confrontational with them. And it seems true, bro, because everyone heard about the gas field that they found, a while ago. They found huge gold kind of mine or reserves or whatever. They got this nuclear power thing going. They've actually, it was last week or something, Erdogan, he took a test drive in a electric self-driving bus that is 100% Turkey built.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, a couple of those companies in Turkey are doing buses specifically, I think, and then they also have an electric car company that they're working on for, I think, 2023. They're hoping to release the cars, and then Erdogan met with Elon Musk recently because they want to start their own space program. So they're like, forget Corona, like we're going full speed, whereas other countries still, struggling a bit. So it's interesting when we can kind of see the future being built in front of your eyes. I'm not saying Ghani is definitely going to be perfect and stuff. All I'm saying is they've got that ambition and boldness.
Yeah.
Obviously, UAE also has the ambition and boldness, but I'll tell you something, bro. Like going to Algeria and having lived in UAE for a long time, I always was, I felt like Algeria is more of a real country, but just based on this one basic thing, right? I remember Algeria going through like hills and valleys, like driving on roads and you can see all these hills and valleys. So I was thinking, in UAE, there's no hills and valleys because it's just desert. So it's easy to build roads.
Right.
And I was thinking, like, in Algeria, at least we can build bridges, that go over these valleys and stuff.
Right.
In UAE, they don't have the expertise to do that without a foreigner doing it,
Right.
So like, in that sense, I feel like Algeria is more of a real country. Like there's that, yani, I would call that a bit of like that's one part of what makes you civilized, or a civilization, is you've got expertise to do basic things,
It's also it's going to be all based on terrain and what that, it's like it's like a city in the middle of the desert, won't have the expertise of sailing or fishing or whatever,
Yeah.
so they have to go and
Yes,
ask
that's
those on the
true.
coast.
That's true.
And that's what it was like before. Obviously now
Yeah,
we
that
get
is
that
true.
expertise from everywhere,
You
but
could also say that although the a lot of Algerians, whatever, there's the civil engineers and they can do the. You also could say though that why are they bringing in so many Chinese to work? Possibly because Algerians don't work.
oh
Obviously,
maybe.
illa man rahim Allah, but they're importing labor in Algeria as well when there's a lot of jobless people.
That was
So you
something I
can
saw a lot
also
when I was
say,
there. I remember driving past that massive masjid that they're building in the capital,
yeah,
and all of the big signs. Like there was all these massive banners all around like the scaffolding and stuff for the masjid, but it was
yeah,
all in Chinese, and I was really like, oh, this is
yeah,
using.
yeah,
It just looked really odd. I was in like in the middle of a
mm,
Muslim country, on top, like driving directly next to the biggest masjid I think in the world. Is it? It's going to be, or
mm.
I mean, it's massive
At least
now,
Africa
or
anyway.
at
Yeah,
least Africa, but I'm sure it's probably going to be the world because it looked
mm,
huge. And there was
yeah,
all these Chinese sort of banners and stuff on it, and I was like, "Wow,
mm, mm,
it doesn't have the
yeah.
same kick, bro. Like, it doesn't feel this. It doesn't give me the same sort of warm feeling seeing,
Hmm.
like I don't feel proud to see a giant masjid built by someone else.
Mm-mm.
But
Yeah.
it is what it is, I guess.
But I think maybe I'm wrong to say it's because Algerians don't work, right? Because I know the Chinese model is we'll like even lend you money. And then as long as you spend that money on our companies, and by the way, our companies are only going to hire Chinese,
Right.
so a lot of the time that's how it works. Like the Chinese came to Algeria, they built like all the roads and like all these
Mm,
big projects, infrastructure things. Because they do it, they know how to do that day in day out with their eyes closed. Probably do it for a good price. But what they do as well, I think, is they're using that as a way to um, employ their own people. You know, so they do that all over Africa and also across Asia, where it's like we'll build your thing, but we're going to bring our own labor force. And what
mm,
that does is it keeps Chinese people having jobs, basically.
mm.
So that's part of their model. Maybe it's not just the case in Algeria, but when you contrast that with Turkey, it's like, big masajid built here, mashallah, very good quality, made with stone, marble, all of this, probably going to last hundreds of years. And it's all Turkish, as
Mm,
far as I know, for the most part. Even
mm.
I'm watching them around in this area. They're building the metro. Like, I don't think that's Chinese companies, bro.
Mm.
Um, in Algeria, I remember they were building a tram and it was a Spanish company. So
They had
it's
like
sad, bro.
they had like sort of like a subway system in Algeria that I used. That was really fascinated by
Yeah.
that. It was all
Algiers, yeah.
yeah, it was really like clean and well organized and
Yeah.
sort of really straightforward to use. And I was really
Mm,
fascinated by that because
mm,
I hadn't seen anything like that in
yeah.
well, at least in Tunisia and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's good, Akhi, that those things exist, but
mm,
it would be really good if it was made by the actual country. It's not just
yeah.
fully
Well,
outsourced.
inshallah, may Allah give strength and might to the Muslims
Amen.
wherever they may
Amen.
be,
Yeah.
and may it's just my dad always used to say, a lot of these countries, a lot of our countries, Muslim countries, just need to
Mm,
shut up and work hard. He used to say that all the time. He used to say,
mm,
he always used to say it. My dad never was a fan of like people complaining or just always screaming for rights and screaming, not rights, but scream, just getting on the streets
mm,
and complaining and stuff. He
mm,
he he his theory, which I think he probably got from the previous president, was stop complaining and work hard and just shut up and put up, and you'll be put your head down for 10, 20 years, work hard, build your countries up and focus on your own, your communities, and in those 10, 20 years you'll be on top instead of trying to get there now by just moaning and complaining. It's about the hard long work, because I
mm,
think his theory was that you draw a lot of attention to yourself when you're just screaming at the world about wanting change, wanting this, because what it does is it invites a lot of outside, uh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Outside sort of, interception, and
sympathy.
outside, not just that, but like people take
Mm,
advantage of you because they know that you're in need,
mm,
you know?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people, you get outside sort of forces coming in and saying, "Oh yeah, we'll give you those things that you want if you
Mm,
just do this and you believe in this and
mm,
you do
mm,
that." But if you just shut up and put up and you're a bit of a closed book, then
mm.
the power's all in your
Basically,
hands.
be proud.
Be proud, be proactive, and
Mm,
don't. At
mm,
the end of the day, like It's sad, Akhi, because a lot of the disruptions and a lot of the distress, people burn down their own homes in a fits of rage, not realizing that this is the only home you have left. It's like, and it happens all over the world. Like, look what happened in America when it was those riots and stuff. People were smashing up their own communities, trying to force some sort of change, but they had to go back to those communities the very next day and live with the consequences of those actions. Um, yeah, things like that, Akhi. I think people need to sort of think more community based as opposed to individual based and stuff. But it's not easy. This is the times we live in. It's not easy.
Yeah. One thing that a friend of mine said, which was very eye-opening, is that Turkey is different to the Arab world. Why? Because they were never colonized. Turkey was never colonized. Yes, they got messed up from like World War One, and then they got invaded by Greece and Britain and this and that, but they were never colonized. And so he told me, this interesting fact. He said, like Turkey, the Turkish kind of people have been ruling themselves for hundreds of years. Yani, since that Anatolia kind of area became like populated and became like an actual territory, they've been ruling themselves, right? I don't know how long that is. That maybe it's like 700-800 years. Okay. But however, Egypt has not been ruled by an actual Egyptian, like one of the people, for, I don't know, but it was like over 1,000 years.
Yeah, bro.
Okay. Because all of these people were even like, I think he said like Fir'aun, he wasn't from the people.
Like even like Cleopatra married, or she got with Julius Caesar, and then suddenly Rome was Rome was in control. That's why you've got, even before that, like you've got, why do you think Alexandria is called Alexandria, for example? And why? Because of Alexander the Great. Was Alexander the Great from Egypt? No, he wasn't. Like,
And then even when they became a Muslim place or country, again you have like what's it called? The Ottomans ruled it. The Mamluks ruled it. They were not from there, you know. And so the Ottomans, for example, when they were ruling Egypt, they sent their own people to go and be like the mayor or whatever it is. So all the knowledge of how to govern a place was kept with whoever was ruling it, and it never actually reached the Egyptian people.
Theoretically, the majority, well, I wouldn't say majority, but what me and you have in our mind of someone who's Egyptian isn't necessarily Egyptian in terms of the historical Egyptian. We're technically at the moment, Egypt is full of Arabs, which it wasn't necessarily before.
Sure.
Just like a lot of us, like look at a lot of countries now. I mean, I'd say Algeria has got a lot of native North Africans there, but a lot of that culture's kind of disappeared with time and the adoption of Arabic and stuff like that. But there are still, very passionate people that still hold on to that culture. I know Morocco's got a big sort of Qabail population. I know that Algeria has. I'm not too sure
Morocco's
about Tunis,
the most,
but,
I think.
But yeah, man. Anyway, Akhi, we're gonna have to wrap up because I've got a night shift.
Really?
Yeah. So
I thought you finished work, not starting work.
I've got to have a little nap before I start my actual work, bro. oh man.
You gotta work so that you can put that money in the stocks.
In the stonks. Oh, may Allah guide us, Akhi, and keep us upon the Sirat al-Mustaqim and keep us balanced. That's the important thing.
What are we gonna call this episode?
So we spoke about the sort of dangers of the heart when it comes to investing and stuff. We spoke about charity, right? We spoke about infrastructure in terms of infrastructure of Turkey and stuff, and then we spoke about
being self-reliant and stuff.
And we spoke about community cohesion, or like the ummah, the cohesion of the ummah in terms of trying to focus on itself and sort of complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or work on, think long term, think of the future, work hard, keep your mouth quiet. I don't know.
This will be the last episode of Mind Heist because we're gonna shut up for 10 years.
Whoa. No, actually. Whoa. Can you imagine? When will the last episode of Mind Heist? Will Mind Heist end in like a big sort of like final episode, or will it just sort of go quietly into the night. Just
It'll go with my death, bro.
Subhanallah, Adi. Just yours specifically, not mine. Okay. So if
Well,
you
I
die
did- I
before
did-
me, that's it. I give up. But if I die, it's fine. We'll find someone else. Anyway,
Didn't want to
we'll leave it
talk
at
about
that
your
on that
death.
bombshell. If you would like to be the new host of Mind Heist, please send your emails into mindheistpodcast@gmail.com. We will get around to doing questions. I probably said last episode that this episode we'll do questions, but maybe we'll do questions next episode. We don't plan very well. We just put the camera on and it's like, oh. And then we initially start with like a conversation thinking we're going to go into questions, but we just carry on talking. And
That
do you know
is what happened today.
And that's good. That's good. That's what podcast is about. It's unscripted. We're talking. We're just jamming. We're discussing things. We got mic arms. We got webcams. We got but anyway, jazakallah khair for listening, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.